Well, we are here to talk about trusting God as you transition to the end of your career. But before we talk about that, can you tell us about a past transition in life that the Lord used to shape you as you think about this time, something in your past that has shaped you? Anyone want to go first? Dr. Varner, Charles, anyone?
So when I was in high school, I told you, I was good at school. I was fifth in my class of 385. And on awards day, I sat in the auditorium and just thinking they were going to call my name and announce what college I was going to. I knew I was going to UC, but they didn't call my name. When they called scholarships, I never got a scholarship. And it's because I hadn't applied for anything. That was the reason. And I don't fault my guidance counselors. I'm sure all the parents who'd gone to college were wearing them out. But anyway, my mother has always been a saint. She didn't know what to do. She was a high school dropout. My father was a high school dropout. She took me out to the central office, and she said, "We need to talk to somebody who can get my daughter into college." And they sent me to Dr. C.C. Bond. I don't know if anybody here remembers him. He was over pupil services. Within a few weeks, he had me enrolled in UC. He called somebody on the phone and got me in. My grades were good enough. He got me in. He called another friend, Joe King, anybody been around a while, owned Moore and King Pharmacy, and got me a job because I was the oldest of 8 children, and we were not just poor, we were poor, but I never felt poor. But anyway, got me a job so that I could work 40 hours a week in the evenings and go to college during the mornings. Joe King would, if you were back in Chattanooga back in the 70s, downtown would pretty much fold up at 6 o'clock. And we stayed open until 8 o'clock. So he said from 6 to 8, you can get your schoolwork done. And so just that series of events, everything I am today, everything I have accomplished, I owe to my parents, but especially my mother, for taking me out there and saying, "How do you get a kid into college? Because I don't know." And for that person in my life who just made things happen in no time. And I was a college graduate, master's, now I have a doctorate in education administration. And when I think about that, that's my calling, to be that person for somebody, to be the person who sees somebody who just needs an opportunity because it made such a difference for me. I'd probably be working at McDonald's if that hadn't happened. Nothing against McDonald's, by the way. But just something like that, the transition from nobody, poor, not headed for college, to somebody on track to be a leader.
I didn't tell her this, but my very first job was working at McDonald's, so I'm not sure.
And look at how
It's, I was good at flipping those burgers. One other comment about Jonathan and what he said too is that it can create conversations. It's been a privilege, I think, to share a conversation here, and then just last night, through pure sovereign serendipity, spent some time with Jason and Troy Dubel up at his office, sharing these very kinds of thoughts. It was a beautiful thing from my perspective. In terms of the transition that I've got, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty. For 20 years, I'd been working at Chatham. I was determined to take care of people, take care of the employees, take care of investors, take care of the guy. I was second in charge, the guy who was running it. I was taking care of everything, and I thought I was doing great. But my life exploded, and I essentially destroyed myself. And you can call it burnout, you can call it a variety of things, but I destroyed myself in the process, and nearly destroyed my family in the process. And as I was preparing to leave, Zan and I agreed that I should go. It was a mutual kind of agreement. And when I went home that night, Susan called Zan on the phone and said, "Why did you do this to him?" And Zan's response was precisely on point and said, "I didn't do it to him. He did it to himself." And it was so true that I had created in my mind this vision of I can take care of all these people, and it became my identity, absolutely became my identity. And all of a sudden, it was gone. So what did I do? I felt like I needed to recreate the identity. I took a job working with a guy who I thought I trusted, and it blew up. It failed, and my last effort right there at identity was gone. But then I got involved with the planting of Rock Creek Fellowship, which was the most important part of my life, I think, is the way that we were able to come together for the faith, for our Lord, for the community, and for each other. I had 3 guys who cared for me, a whole bunch of others that cared for me as well. And as we put together this church that cared for that community, it was hugely defining for me. So that is it.
I'm just thinking back on a lot of small transitions, some big ones. Went to Samford in Birmingham and then went out to Houston, Texas to medical school and did not know a person there. And was going to one church, and then the whole singles group got married or moved, except for 1 or 2 of us. Went to another one and met my future wife. And then ultimately went to Wake Forest and was on that was the first faculty job. And really, I think the reason that worked was God sent us to a different church there, one we might not have gone to before, that really was a great blessing to my wife and I and our family. And after 14 years in Winston-Salem, really after 13, I was thinking, well, what is left? What can I do here? What is there a path forward more than what I'm doing now? And I got an email from a colleague in Louisville, Kentucky. We'd been part of a multi-center study together. He said, "We've got a couple of open positions. Why don't you come interview for one of them?" And I'd never thought about moving until that email landed. It was just almost like, this is what you need to do. Went to Louisville, and was a great both career move, good in many ways for family and extended family. Became a department chair there, again, something I never would have imagined might have happened. And just all these steps along the way, you just see preparation in ways you don't expect, sometimes disappointment, but disappointments that actually maybe make you better to be the kind of leader that's going to be needed for the situation. And then similarly, after living through many scandals in Louisville, basketball and otherwise for some of you who follow that, the jobs opened here. And I hadn't even thought about ever coming this way. But again, I think God moved us or opened this up more for where we would land outside of work than in work, in community. So.
I love all of your stories. Bob, you talk about really being forced into a transition, not one you were planning on, but that needed to happen. Edna, you talk about the people in your life that walked alongside of you in transitions, that it wasn't just a thing you did on your own. And Charles, you talk about opportunities that you weren't expecting or planning that the Lord used to push you in directions. And you can probably all think of your own examples that fit in those categories or other things. But as we start talking specifically about the season of life y'all are in, and all of you still do lots of things, so please don't hear me saying it's over. But I'd love to know if there was a moment when you first thought that you may be nearing the end of your professional career, if there was a time or a situation or anything that kind of stood out to you. And what did it look like, and what were some of your immediate responses as you're kind of feeling that way or thinking that? Any of y'all want to go?
I'll start, I guess.
Oh, you talk.
Well, I just went. You talk.
I want you to talk.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Go, Bob.
You can tell we've worked together before. Somehow it is an interest. At the age of almost 79, I've seen life at both ends. And so I knew this day was coming, and I'm not afraid of it. I wasn't afraid of it, and I'm not afraid of mortality, those kinds of things. But as I move from the last 15 years at Hamico, where I've spent lots of time with lots of leaders of organizations around Chattanooga, lots of time in those organizations, I've come to love those people and love those organizations, and it is a huge, huge blessing to me. It all came out of the Rock Creek Fellowship thought, which our sole purpose was loving one another. That was our sole. It was based on, obviously, the passage in Matthew, but it was how we lived our lives. As I prepare, when did I see this coming? I saw it coming. I just got told at a Hamico board meeting that you've been talking about this for 3 years. So I guess it happened 3 years ago. But it really happened about 3 months ago when I had heart surgery that said, I guess I better pay attention. So I am now, I saw it happening then, and I now see it directly. But frankly, when I think about it right now, I'm a little bit afraid of it. These relationships that have been so valuable to me, the people I cared about, where is God going to call me next? And I'm really counting on Him to take me to those places, to take me to those people where we can share life together at this stage in life. So I found out for sure 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm just on the path to try and get to this final transition.
So I'm the president of Chattanooga Rotary. My term ends in June. Mike knows that. For a couple of weeks, the schedule has said Edna's last day. They did change it to Edna's last day as president, but I thought, my last day in Rotary, my last day on this earth, or what? I've actually retired twice. I retired from the school system in 2001. And it was because I had a wonderful opportunity to work internationally. I love Chattanooga, I'm never moving. But this one, you just rack up frequent flyer miles. I got bumped up to first place so often, I'd just give it to somebody else because I slept on the plane anyway. But when one chapter closes and another chapter opens up, I have a friend who was a principal, and his daughter is grown. He and his wife divorced, but they're good friends. But he decided to take a job as a Delta flight attendant. And so he's traveling all over the world. He's on Facebook all the time. And he's a retired principal. So I don't really plan to go away. I'll still be around. I'll actually be looking for my next adventure. And I'll tell you why I'm open to that. My favorite scripture when I was growing up is from, I think it's from Proverbs. It may be from Jeremiah, but anyway, whatever. I'll find it. It's on this paper. I'll tell you in case you want to look it up. It's Jeremiah 33. Call unto me, and I will tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. And I grew up thinking, wow, if I call on God, He's going to tell me great things. He's going to tell me, well, this was before Google, but now when I think of it, I still have an opportunity to learn great and unsearchable things you cannot even Google. And so I absolutely live my life with anticipation that when one thing finishes, something else, something great is going to happen. And I just have to be ready for that thing. I have to be looking for it. And so people ask me, why do you say yes? You got to learn how to say no. I say yes because I get an opportunity to be somewhere, meet new people, because I think that next great unsearchable thing may be found in that place. I've said yes to. So like everybody else, I have down days and I get stressed when I don't get my work done. But because of that scripture, and of course, God has a plan for me, I am never devastated. And I make major mistakes. People in my life can tell you. But I'm always okay. I am always okay because there's a plan for my life, and every day is an opportunity to learn great and unsearchable things I do not know.
Thank you. My, I guess, biggest transition point was probably August of 23 when I got a PET scan. Just my follow-up, felt well, and this lymphoma that I'd been living with really without a lot of issues over the first 11 or so years was going to need something done within 6 to 12 months. And so at that point, I had sort of two jobs, and I felt like I needed to develop a plan to step out of them because, I didn't know exactly what I was going to be facing. And started that transition out of Erlanger and UT at that point, and ended up stepping out completely in March of 24. And you look at these things and think, okay, my analogy in March was I'm on a roller coaster going downhill. The track ends at a cliff, but there's a rope. And that rope was the therapy I ultimately had. And I had a sense that, I might live a long time or I might not. And then I thought, well, that's true whether I have lymphoma or I'm going through treatment or not. That's kind of true every day. And I hadn't really always thought of it quite like that. But God put different things in front of me, the opportunity to do the work I'm doing now on the other side. In some ways, departing from an organization the way I did for a medical reason. I wasn't fired. I didn't leave to go to something else that my colleagues and friends there might think I was just leaving them. So I look back on it now, I still have amicable relationships with the people who lead now in the roles that I had and others. And that's something I'd never really thought about as part of that transition. So you never know how God is going to use some of these circumstances, and maybe in ways that have purposes you don't see at the time. So, right now, again, it's like, well, what do I do when I grow up? What are the next steps? Well, it's the work that I'm doing, but you have conversations with people. Who does God put in front of me? And one of them was Jonathan back in the fall. And you just never know how these discussions are going to go, but that's, to me, part of the purpose. And not necessarily that I have something to offer other people. It's a two-way street, maybe, and hopefully these conversations are useful to other people, but many times I'm having conversations with people, and it's frankly more beneficial to me, and God using that for teach me about his purposes and plans. So.
One word none of you use in any sort of way to describe where you're at is retirement. And honestly, guys, it's not a biblical phrase. Retirement is not biblical in the way we talk about it in the United States. And so what I hear is you all are on assignment still. So this question I'm about to ask really is not about finishing any specific career, but really as you're finishing these years of your life the Lord has given you to steward, what does finishing well mean for you as a Christian? What does that look like for you? And are there specific practices or rhythms that have helped you remain faithful towards the end, not just the beginning and the middle of your careers, but you think about where you are in your career and all the legacy and the wisdom you all have to share. And I love what you said, Charles, not only are you sharing, but you're receiving still. But in the midst of this, what does faithfulness look like for you all in this season of your career?
I'll go for it. I have a story I wanted to share, and I thought, I don't care what the question is, I'm going to make it the answer. Fortunately, it fits the question. for now and my whole life. It's just to remember that as people of faith, we are chosen. And sometimes you think you're chosen for greatness. I've won a lot of awards, some of them because they needed a woman, some of them because they needed a black person. I don't care, I'll still take the trophy. But I've been chosen, and I know what chosen feels like. But I have a story. It's my sister's story. She died of cancer, breast cancer, and she fought bravely for years, and she died. But when she knew she had cancer, oh God, this was the greatest lesson I could have learned about being chosen. It's not about getting an award. She stood up in our church and she said, I want you all to know that I have stage 4 cancer. And I am so grateful that God chose me to show how a Christian deals with devastating news. And it changed my whole thinking about being chosen. Sometimes we are chosen and bad things happen to us to give us an opportunity to demonstrate how differently Christians and people of faith respond when they are chosen to be the one who suffers. And so, out of all the things I've been chosen for, I've never had anything like cancer, but the little disappointments I've had in my life, and they are little because I can think back on what she said, and if this bad thing is happening to me, I'm being chosen to show all of those around me how a Christian handles this kind of disappointment. And so that word chosen, it has so much a greater meaning. It's not just about getting an award.
Powerful story. And in a certain ironic way, my story's a lot the same. What kind of patterns do we establish, and how are they established for us? My brother died when he was 26, and that was really difficult. And recall that there was a lot of faith as his friends sang a John Denver song in church. I never thought I'd hear it, but it was. Poems, prayers, and promises, and you can leave out the part about passing around the pipe. But if any of you have heard that, but also I mentioned we have a son in heaven. But when he died at 4 years old on the Saturday between Good Friday and Easter, it was devastating for us. I was there. I was with him when he drowned. And it was an incredibly difficult time. And using the word that Edna has, I would ask myself that question: why were we chosen for this? And amazingly, it soon became evident to me why we were chosen. The number of people since that time who have had children who passed away. I can remember Cecil Gravitt, who none of you know, Troy Dubel. I could go right down the list of people who have called Susan and me on the nights their children have died. And the ability to share our love for our past children, for our families, and for each other in Christ is just a powerful, powerful piece of consistency. And I think it goes beyond that. That is a dramatic story, if you will. But one of the things that's been consistent since that time is the time I've gotten to spend with so many individual people sharing life. Roger Pearson has the 10 Project. Some of the mentees that I've had over time, I refuse to use that word. It's sharing life together. I'm going to share life with Tyler on Thursday. And that to me is the pattern that takes place is how do we share this love of Christ and the love for each other, which is the one anothering thought that came out of Rock Creek. And in the process, caring for those in need, whether they're the oppressed, whether they're the hurting, whether they're poverty-stricken, to be there for people, to ask questions. That's another thing that I love to hear people's stories because they're wonderful in terms of their commitment to our Lord. So those things are what stand in where I am.
So a couple of things. I've have a good friend in Chattanooga who's walking bravely through chronic illness, and I'm amazed at kind of his demeanor and approach. But one of the scriptures he has quoted to us in our little men's group is 2 Corinthians 4, and this gets to getting old a bit, but really applies at any age. So we do not lose heart, though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. And so no matter what we're in the middle of, I think that is always something to fall back on. I'm getting older. I can't do what I used to do. And that can be at 40, you know. And then another friend who died about 4 weeks ago, one of our Louisville friends, his verse, which he had read at his funeral, Isaiah 41:10, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. And so just that as encouragement. And the last little thing in this sermonette, our small group did a book on waiting on God in the fall. And if you read throughout the Psalms and many of the scriptures, we're instructed to wait on God. And that's hard for us to do. And sometimes we think, I need an answer or I need an opportunity. And there seems to be silence. And that idea of waiting and yet God's timing for us is captured in this little verse from Habakkuk 2. And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. So are we waiting or is it coming quickly? And the answer is yes. And I think that applies probably at every stage.
There's a Japanese theologian that has a book about the speed of God. And he talks about the speed of God is 3 miles per hour. And that oftentimes his work in our lives is that slow, faithful work. I was thinking about, as you all were talking, going back to almost all your comments, this verse in Isaiah I've been thinking about where Isaiah speaks in the middle of the Israelites in Babylon where they're in exile. He says, don't you see the new thing that I'm doing, that God says to them? And it's in the middle of like a terrible season. And all of you are speaking about things or how you're seeing the world. As we end our kind of official conversation, I'd love to know how you have seen work and your vocation differently in your career. Where was it maybe at the beginning? At this stage of your career, how would you talk about vocation differently? Has purpose changed? Has things changed, or has it been more solidified? Just love at this season of your career, what does work mean for you now?
The way that in my vocation, you heard the history of my first time at Chatham. My identity was tied up in getting things done. They were all good things from my perspective. But it was not what mattered to me at all. And what I see now, in my vocation and the way that he's been present in it, is through the thought of, and this is Tom McCauley who told me this one time, and I've never forgot it. He said, when you're in your profession, when you're living life, he said, people need to see Christ in you. And they are going to see it not through proclamation, but they're going to see it through demonstration. And so in everything that I do, in every piece of work that I do subsequent to my leaving Chatham the first time and through following stages of life, I have thought about it that way. How am I demonstrating him, and what guidance am I getting? And that to me has been something that's just been a very, very strong driving force. And it's made, I'm praying that people saw that Christ in me that came from this thought of demonstration. We will demonstrate now and we'll proclaim as we go along. So that would be the way it plays out for me.
So I was a teacher for 30 years. I told you that, and right now I'm working with the Public Ed Foundation, and what we do is we recruit people who want to be teachers, and some of them are straight out of college, but a number of them have retired in their jobs, and we say, you know, if you have 4 or 5 more years left in you, how about teaching? Teaching is such a wonderful career, and the kids are the reason. They say and do the funniest things, and even the tough ones, they haven't met. I always say, you haven't met me yet. I'm going to devote my life to you because you're misbehaving. I don't know what I'm going to do, but you will remember it when you are old. That was always a good line in intimidating kids. But anyway, and so what I'm getting to do now is I get to do what I love really without any bosses. I don't have to follow school rules. And it's so funny, I've been retired for a while, but when I'm in a school, I just speak with authority and are you the custodian? I need that room open. And they just, I have no authority at all and they just do it. But I just have so much fun doing what I loved, but it's not a job now. And so I think that is a gift from God, that really is, that you can enjoy after the formal work something else instead of, I can't really retire. I don't garden, I don't play golf, I don't do any of those things. I would probably just sit on the porch until I die. And I don't want to do that. And so having retired twice, I did tell Dan Challenger at the Public Ed Foundation, my plan is to work and then die. And it's okay. But I think you have to keep finding the joy. Think of what it is you love and volunteer doing it. Think of your opportunity to be an inspiration for something else. You know, if we're not here to lift somebody else, to teach somebody else the joy of Christianity, then what are we here for? And you have an opportunity to do that in the smallest thing. It can happen in the grocery store, just a simple exchange will make somebody's day. So in my final career, because I'm not going to work anymore after this, because I'm going to be dead, but but while I still have breath, I think the reason I still have energy and passion is because I know that I'm taken care of. I know there's a plan for my life. I don't have to know the steps. I just know it's a plan for my good. It's not going to harm me. And so I live every day knowing that I'm doing what I love. I love being with people. I love helping people. You know, I'm not on my job trying to convert people, but I hope with my life, if they say, why are you so happy? I'm so happy because there's a plan for my life, and everything that has happened to me has been a part of that plan for my good.
Well, I think at this point, I'm wrestling through priorities a bit. Like, where intentionally should I be focused? I still have a bit of a day job. It's very flexible. I still have some academic connections to some work in my professional field. And then wrestling with, well, do I volunteer for this thing? Or maybe if they ask me, I might say yes, but I shouldn't volunteer. Should I be focused? Where should my focus be? My intentionality, family, people around me in the neighborhood, you all today, others. Who is in front of me? Who has been put in front of me? And what does God want from me from a servant standpoint in that? So I think I'm trying to focus on that intentionality. I will not say that I'm doing it perfectly by any stretch.
Thank you all so much for sharing. I just was struck as you're talking, there's like a hopefulness and an expectation, not at the end of, it's not a dread. I don't hear dread. I heard a real honest, like, not sure what this next season is going to look like. And I was just, as I was thinking about that, going, what does it mean if we're full in Jesus, that we actually have the freedom to love others and to serve others and to give of ourselves, and that's going to look different. And you're not, like, Bob, I loved how you started with this was an identity thing, and now it's moving from, because the identity I already have, that the season, as in this transition, that I get to continue to serve whatever God puts before me with an expectancy that he has something still. And what a wonderful way to live no matter where you are. I just think about no matter what season you're in, the ladder you're trying to climb, the thing you're trying to prove, what would it look like if we actually believed that Jesus won the battle already? That there's nothing to win and that we're free to serve. The Bible study I did with them was on John 15, and when it talks about abiding in Jesus, the outworking of abiding in Jesus isn't doing nothing and sitting on the porch, it's to love, right? And I'm hearing in your voice, what does it look like for me to move forward in love in this season? Can we give them a round of applause for sharing? We have about 4 minutes if there are any questions in the audience, things that you would love to ask. We got a few minutes if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, we were good.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, so what advice would you have for college students today starting out?
One is make sure that you're getting advice about what you can do with whatever degree you're pursuing. And good guidance counseling at the college level, I think, is very essential in this era. But at the same time, God has a plan, and not being panicked. That's easier to say on this side than on that side, of course. I don't know that I have anything else on that.
Not only for college students, sometimes when people talk to me about, I'd like to serve on a board, I'd like to do volunteer work, where do I start? I said, ask yourself, what do I love? That's where you start. If you're in college, you may be there because your folks really want you to do something else. And some of the teachers we recruit, they say, well, I really wanted to be a teacher, but my folks wanted me to be a lawyer or something. And not that there's anything wrong with lawyers, but were you a lawyer?
It bothers me that you looked at me like that.
Well, you worked at McDonald's. But then they'll come, they say, I just kept being called to it. And sometimes you can be more than one thing. You can have the job you have to have. My father worked in a foundry, and he did that, but he also loved being a preacher, and so he managed to do both. So you can do more than one thing you love, and you can do something you have to do, but you also need to spend some time doing something you love. That's what gives you quality of life. That's what makes you the person other people need to know and see in you. And while you're, not out there intentionally trying to save them, you can lead them to Christ just by having this great life. And I've had people say, what if at the end of your life you found out there is no God? I said, I still had a great time. How was your life?
I remember back in Leadership Chattanooga, following Edna was always a problem. Now, some things never change. My one piece of guidance to a college student would be, don't be afraid in approaching people that you value, that you see succeeding in life. Do not be afraid. Go talk to them. And it is incredible to me that the high school kids that I'll talk to, college kids that'll come in when friends of mine will send their sons to talk to me, at first they're a little bit afraid. Why? I don't want them to be afraid. And I think that would be the one piece of guidance I'd give. People are waiting to talk to you, waiting to share their lives, waiting to share Christ with you. And that's no matter what age you happen to be.
Well, thank you guys for sharing your lives and sharing with us today. Give them one more round of applause. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to get you out of here right at 1. On the table is a QR code if you want to sign up for our newsletter. We'll be ramping up programming again starting in August and September. Really thankful that you're here. They'll stick around for a couple minutes if you have any questions, but I'm going to get you out right on time. Thanks for being here. God bless as you head out today.